First Contact's price. The Nexari Strategic Command had conquered 17 civilizations across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. Each victory followed the same pattern: precise, calculated, and utterly predictable. Their success relied on a simple truth: all sentient species, when faced with overwhelming technological superiority, eventually surrendered. Admiral Vatrix stood before the holographic display of Earth, her crystalline exoskeleton reflecting the blue-green glow of the planet below. The planet was remarkable only in its unremarkability. Another life-bearing world with primitive technological capabilities and no unified government. Perfect for integration into the Empire. Fascinating, she murmured, her secondary neural clusters processing the flood of data from their preliminary scans. They still use combustion engines for atmospheric flight. Her executive officer, Commander Zill, approached with a data crystal. The psychological analysis is complete, Admiral. Humans appear to be highly emotional beings, prone to irrational decision-making and tribal conflicts. They've spent most of their recorded history fighting among themselves. Vatrix's feeding tentacles curled in amusement. Then they should understand the futility of resistance. Prepare the standard contact package. The Nexari contact package was a masterpiece of psychological warfare, refined over centuries of successful conquests. It began with a simultaneous worldwide display of force. 15,000 ships materializing in perfect geometric formations above every major population center on the planet. Earth's response was unexpected. Admiral, Zill called out, his voice carrying an unusual harmonic of concern. We're detecting no significant increases in heart rates or stress hormones from the population centers below. No panic, no mass evacuations. Vatrix moved closer to the display, her crystalline fingers manipulating the data streams. Perhaps their monitoring systems haven't detected us yet. No, Admiral. Their media networks are acknowledging our presence. But Zill paused, double-checking his readings. They're continuing their daily routines. Their military forces are mobilizing, but with unusual coordination and calm. Vatrix felt the first twinge of uncertainty in her tertiary brainstem. This wasn't the standard response pattern. Every other species had shown immediate signs of panic or aggression. The humans were simply watching. She proceeded with the next phase, the Empire's formal declaration of authority. The message was broadcast simultaneously in every human language. Your world has been chosen for integration into the Nexari Empire. Resistance is futile. Submit now and preserve your population centers. You have 1 planetary rotation to respond. The waiting period was usually filled with frantic communications, emergency government sessions, and desperate attempts at unity. Instead, Earth's response came within minutes. A single video transmission requested on all frequencies. The human who appeared on screen was unremarkable by their species standards. Female, middle age, wearing what appeared to be civilian clothing. She sat at a simple desk, no flags or symbols of authority visible. I am Dr. Sarah Chen, speaking on behalf of Earth's Combined Defense Initiative. We've been expecting first contact for some time, though we had hoped for a more peaceful approach. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Your ships are impressive. We've already analyzed their capabilities. Perhaps you should do the same to ours. The transmission ended. Arrogance, Zill declared. They have no orbital defense platforms, no energy shields. Their satellite network is primitive at best. Vatrix wasn't so sure. Something felt wrong. The human's confidence seemed too genuine, her words too carefully chosen. Launch a comprehensive scan of their orbital space. Full spectrum analysis. The results came back negative. No hidden weapons platforms. No cloaked vessels. Nothing but communication satellites and space debris. And yet, Admiral, one of the sensor operators called out, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from their planet's poles. They appear to be. The officer never finished his sentence. Suddenly, the debris field around Earth came alive. What had appeared to be defunct satellites and abandoned rocket stages transformed, unfolding like geometric flowers made of light and energy. A web of interconnected energy fields sprang into existence, enveloping the entire planet in a protective mesh. Impossible, Zil whispered. Their technology level was a lie. Vatrix finished, watching as their sensors began reporting critical data about Earth's true defensive capabilities. The humans hadn't been primitive at all. They had simply chosen to appear so. Another transmission came through, this time from a different human. A male voice, calm and clinical. We've studied every alien invasion scenario humanity could imagine. We prepared for them all. You'll find that Earth is not the easy conquest you expected. We will give you one planetary rotation to withdraw. After that, the transmission paused meaningfully. Well, we've always wondered how our theoretical weapons would perform against actual alien technology. Vatrix felt something she hadn't experienced in her entire military career. Genuine fear. Not of the humans' weapons, but of their patience. How long had they waited, watching the stars, building their defenses in secret? How many other surprises did they have prepared? She faced a choice that would define her career and possibly the future of the Nexari Empire. The standard protocols were clear. Any resistance must be met with overwhelming force. But there was nothing standard about this situation. Admiral, Zil pressed, we should commence the attack immediately. Show them the consequences of their defiance. Vatrix raised a hand for silence, her crystalline form catching the light of Earth's defensive grid. No, she said finally. We're going to do something the Empire has never done before. Admiral, we're going to listen. She turned to face her command staff. Because any species capable of this level of deception, patience, and technological advancement, while maintaining the appearance of primitivity, they're not prey. They're predators, and we just walked into their trap. As if to emphasize her point, more energy signatures began appearing across Earth's surface. The humans were still unveiling their true capabilities, methodically and calmly, like players in a game revealing their hands one card at a time. The Nexari Empire had never retreated from a conquest before. But then again, they had never encountered humanity before either. The price of first contact, Vatrix realized, would be the end of the Empire's assumption of superiority. And somehow, she suspected that was exactly what the humans had planned all along. The silent defense. The Nexari Empire's greatest weakness, as Dr. Sarah Chen had explained to the World Security Council 15 years ago, was their absolute certainty. They've never failed, she had said, and that makes them predictable. Now, standing in the heart of Sentinel Base Alpha, 2 kilometers beneath the Antarctic ice sheet, she watched her prediction play out on the global tactical display. The Nexari fleet remained in perfect formation, their crystalline ships refracting sunlight like artificial stars. They're scanning everything now, General Marcus Rodriguez reported, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic displays. Just as you predicted. They're trying to understand how they could have misread us so completely. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. And what are they finding? Exactly what we want them to. The quantum decoy network is feeding them carefully curated data about our capabilities. They're seeing enough to worry them, but not enough to make them desperate. The quantum decoy network was perhaps humanity's greatest achievement, a planetary-scale web of sensors and emitters that could create false technological signatures indistinguishable from real ones. The Nexari were seeing defensive capabilities that didn't exist alongside real ones, unable to tell which was which. Status of Project Prometheus, Sarah asked, turning to Dr. Yuki Tanaka, their chief of weapons development. Yuki's fingers danced across her console. All systems nominal. The nanite clouds are maintaining their debris disguise. If the Nexari make any aggressive moves, we can disable their crystalline technology at the molecular level. That had been another of humanity's insights. The moment they detected the first Nexari probe at the edge of the solar system 20 years ago, Earth's scientists had focused on understanding their crystalline technology. What the Nexari saw as advanced bioengineering, humans recognized as a potential weakness. Message from the Chinese Deep Space Array, a communications officer announced. They're detecting quantum communications between the Nexari fleet and what appears to be their home territory. Sarah nodded. They're asking for instructions. This isn't in their conquest playbook. The room fell silent as new data streamed across the displays. The Nexari ships were adjusting their positions, but not in attack formation. They were spreading out, creating a defensive screen around their command vessel. They're afraid, Marcus observed, his voice carrying a mix of satisfaction and concern. Should we push harder? Sarah considered the question carefully. Humanity's strategy had been years in the making. Appear primitive while building advanced defenses. Let the Nexari come in overconfident, then reveal just enough capability to make them reconsider. But not so much that they felt cornered. Launch Phase 3, she decided. Let's show them what happens when humans decide to work together. Across the planet, hidden installations hummed to life. In the Mariana Trench, the quantum forge began producing dark matter containment spheres. Beneath the Sahara, antimatter catalysts spun up to full power. On the far side of the moon, the gravity lens array oriented toward the Nexari fleet. None of these systems were weapons, not directly. But to the Nexari sensors, they would appear as pieces of a complex weapons platform beyond anything the Empire had encountered. Admiral Vatrix is requesting direct communication, the comms officer reported. Sarah straightened her civilian clothes, deliberately chosen to emphasize humanity's apparent casualness. Put her through. The holographic image of the Nexari admiral materialized, her crystalline form catching the light. Dr. Chin, she began, her translator converting the complex harmonics of her native speech. Your species has surprised us. That was the intent, Sarah replied calmly. Would you like to know what else we've prepared? Vetrix's feeding tentacles writhed in what the human xenopsychologists identified as discomfort. Your defensive capabilities exceed our initial assessment. Your initial assessment was meant to exceed our defensive capabilities, Sarah corrected. That's how you operate. You expect species to show everything they have, to react emotionally, to make mistakes. We chose a different approach. The Admiral's secondary neural clusters pulsed with rapid activity. You knew we were coming. We detected your first probe 2 decades ago. Thank you, by the way. Reverse engineering its quantum sensors gave us quite a technological boost. That wasn't entirely true. Humanity had already developed quantum technology, but letting the Nexari think they had helped their own potential conquest advance was a psychological weapon in itself. The Empire has never retreated from a chosen integration target, Vatrix said, but her tone carried an unmistakable note of uncertainty. Sarah's expression remained neutral. The Empire has never encountered humanity before. We're giving you a chance to be the first Nexari admiral to make a wise strategic withdrawal. I suggest you take it. And if we don't? In response, Sarah simply activated the next phase of humanity's revelations. Across Earth's surface, hidden installations began powering up. In orbit, more debris transformed into advanced platforms. None of them were actively hostile, yet, but their purpose was clear. We've spent 20 years preparing for this moment, Sarah explained. Everything you've seen so far, it's been a fraction of our capabilities. We could have attacked the moment you arrived. We could have destroyed your probe 2 decades ago. We didn't, because we wanted to understand you first, to give you a chance to understand us. Vatrix's crystalline form shifted, refracting light in complex patterns. You're not like the others. No, Sarah agreed. We're not. The question is, are you different enough from your predecessors to recognize when victory isn't possible? The silence that followed was heavy with potential. In that moment, both species stood on the brink, not just of potential conflict, but of a fundamental change in how they viewed each other. Finally, Vatrix spoke. You've hidden your true nature from us. How can we trust anything you say? Sarah's response was immediate. We haven't hidden our nature at all. Everything we've done, the patience, the planning, the deception. This is human nature. We're showing you exactly who we are. The question is whether you're wise enough to learn from it. Around Earth, humanity's defenses continued their calculated revelation, each new system adding to the mounting evidence that the Nexeri Empire had, for the first time, met a species that had outmaneuvered them before the first shot was fired. The silent defense had worked perfectly. Now came the truly delicate part, turning a potential invasion into a first contact that both species could survive. Turning tables, Admiral Vatrix faced her first true crisis of command as new data flooded the Nexeri flagship's systems. The humans weren't just revealing their technologies. They were systematically dismantling everything the Empire thought they knew about warfare. Impossible, Commander Zill whispered, his crystalline form vibrating with stress harmonics. They've penetrated our quantum encryption. On their primary display, streams of the Empire's most classified tactical data scrolled past, translated into human languages. Everything from fleet formations to weapon specifications to the personal records of every officer aboard the invasion fleet. Not penetrated, Vatrix corrected grimly. They've been inside our systems since before we arrived. The question is, why show us now? The answer came in the form of another transmission from Earth. This time, it wasn't Dr. Chen, but a different human. An elderly male with dark skin and keen eyes wearing what appeared to be gardening clothes. I'm Dr. James Morrison, head of Project Oracle, he began, soil still visible under his fingernails. By now you've realized we've had access to your systems for some time. You're wondering why we'd reveal this capability instead of keeping it secret. The answer is simple. We're not playing the game you think we're playing. Vatrix felt her tertiary brain stem pulse with recognition. The humans weren't just fighting back. They were rewriting the rules of engagement entirely. On Earth, in the quantum-shielded chambers of Project Oracle, James Morrison watched the Admiral's reaction with practiced ease. Behind him, walls of quantum processors sifted through exabytes of Nexeri data, while his team of linguists and synopsychologists analyzed every nuance of the Empire's response. You're wondering about the extent of the infiltration, he continued, deliberately brushing some dirt from his sleeve. Here's a demonstration. With a casual gesture, he activated a hidden protocol. Throughout the Nexeri fleet, every crystal-based system simultaneously displayed the same message in the Empire's native language. Your technology is based on structured crystal matrices. Ours learned to subvert them 2 years ago. This is a courtesy demonstration. The message displayed for exactly 3 seconds before disappearing, leaving no trace in the Nexeri systems. The implications were clear. Humanity could have destroyed or controlled the entire fleet at any time. In Sentinel Base Alpha, Sarah Chen watched the exchange with approval. Status of the Horizon Protocol, she asked. Dr. Tanaka consulted her displays. The quantum entanglement network is stable. If they try to call for reinforcements, we can extend our control to any crystal-based system that receives their transmission. This had been the true purpose of humanity's patient approach. While the Nexeri saw themselves as invaders, humans had turned them into unwitting carriers of Earth's most advanced defensive technology. Back on the Nexeri flagship, Vatrix made a decision that would change the course of her civilization. Open a direct channel to Earth Command, she ordered. No encryptions, no protocols. When the connection established, she found herself facing both Dr. Chen and Dr. Morrison in what appeared to be a simple conference room. The casualness of their surroundings seemed deliberate, another reminder that humans didn't need impressive displays of technology to demonstrate power. Your species, Vatrix began, her translator struggling to convey the complex emotions in her harmonics, has achieved something no other civilization has managed. You've turned our own certainty into a weapon against us. That's not entirely accurate, Sarah responded. We didn't turn your certainty against you. We simply recognized it as the vulnerability it always was. Your empire has been so successful for so long that you forgot the most important lesson of evolution. Which is? Vatrix asked, though she suspected she knew the answer. Adapt or die, James answered, still wearing his gardening clothes. Your empire stopped adapting because it never needed to. Humanity, on the other hand, has never stopped. We've spent our entire history adapting, overcoming, surviving against odds that should have ended us countless times. Vatrix's feeding tentacles curled in thought. You could have destroyed us the moment we arrived. Why this elaborate demonstration? Sarah leaned forward. Because destruction was never our goal. We wanted you to understand something fundamental about humanity. We're not just another species for you to conquer or eliminate. We're something your empire has never encountered before. A civilization that saw you coming and chose to prepare rather than panic. And what now? Vatrix asked. What are your terms? Terms? James chuckled, the sound carrying genuine amusement. Admiral, we're not negotiating your surrender. We're offering you something far more valuable, a chance to evolve. The silence that followed was heavy with possibility. Around Earth, the revealed defensive systems maintained their silent watch, while in orbit, the quantum decoy network continued its dance of real and illusory capabilities. You want an alliance, Vatrix realized, her crystalline form shifting in surprise. Better, Sarah corrected. We want a partnership. Your empire has technology and experience we could benefit from. And she smiled, we can teach you something you've forgotten. The value of uncertainty, of adaptation, of never taking anything for granted. James nodded. Consider what we've shown you of our capabilities. Now consider what we haven't shown you. That uncertainty you're feeling right now, that's not weakness. That's the beginning of evolution. Vatrix felt something she hadn't experienced in centuries of military service, the thrill of the unknown. These humans had turned their perceived primitive status into an advantage, their emotions into weapons, and their patience into power. The Empire had come to Earth expecting to find another civilization to conquer. Instead, they had found something far more valuable, a species that could teach them how to grow again. Your terms, Vatrix said finally, are acceptable. Around the planet, humanity's defenses remained vigilant, but now they served a new purpose, not as weapons of war, but as reminders of the price of underestimation and the value of finding strength in perceived weakness. The human factor. 3 days after the initial contact, the Nexeri Empire experienced something unprecedented. Their first diplomatic summit held on terms dictated by another species. The location chosen by the humans was not a military installation or government facility, but a small cafe in New Zealand overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Admiral Vatrix, accompanied by her senior staff, found herself sitting at a wooden table, her crystalline form drawing curious but not fearful glances from nearby human patrons. Dr. Chen sat across from her, calmly sipping tea, while Dr. Morrison tended to a small herb garden on the cafe's patio. You're wondering about our choice of location, Sarah noted, setting down her cup. You expected a show of force, a formal diplomatic chamber, perhaps. Vatrix's feeding tentacles rippled in acknowledgement. Your species continues to defy conventional logic. On the contrary, James called over from the garden, gently pruning a basil plant. This is perfectly logical. You're seeing humanity in its natural state, carrying on with daily life while discussing things that could reshape the galaxy. Around them, the cafe continued its normal operations. Customers came and went, some stealing glances at the alien visitors, others seemingly unbothered by their presence. It was, Vatrix realized, another demonstration of human adaptability. Your civilization, Commander Zill observed, his crystalline sensors struggling to process the casual atmosphere, appears to lack proper protocol for first contact situations. Sarah smiled. We have protocols. We simply chose not to use them. Tell me, Commander, what does that tell you about us? Before Zill could respond, a small human child approached their table, eyes wide with curiosity. Instead of fear or hesitation, she displayed something the Nexeri had never encountered in their conquests: genuine wonder. "Are you made of diamonds?" the child asked Vatrix directly. The Admiral's translator took a moment to process the simple question. In all her centuries of service, no being had ever addressed her with such unguarded curiosity. Similar crystalline structures. Vatrix found herself explaining, her usual military demeanor softening. But more complex. The child nodded seriously. "Cool. My mom says I shouldn't stare, but you're pretty." As the child returned to her parents, Vatrix turned to Sarah. "You planned this." "The location?" "Yes." The child: "No, that's just humanity being humanity. Unpredictable, curious, adaptable." Sarah leaned forward. "You're beginning to understand why we handled first contact the way we did." In orbit, the situation was evolving as well. Nexeri crews, initially tense and ready for combat, found themselves engaging in unprecedented cultural exchange. Human scientists had been invited aboard several ships, not to study their technology, but to share perspectives on everything from art to philosophy. "Your species," Vatrix noted, watching a group of human children draw with chalk on the sidewalk nearby, "treats the extraordinary as ordinary." "And the ordinary as extraordinary," James added, joining them with soil still under his fingernails. "That's our real strength, not our hidden weapons or defensive systems, but our ability to face the unknown with both preparation and wonder." The Admiral's secondary neural clusters pulsed with new understanding. "The demonstration of your technological capabilities was necessary," Sarah completed, "but not sufficient. We needed you to understand that humanity's strength isn't in our weapons or our deceptions. It's in our fundamental nature." A holoscreen materialized above their table, displaying real-time feeds from around the world. In cities globally, humans and Nexeri were beginning to interact. Scientists from both species were already establishing protocols for knowledge exchange. Artists were attempting to create works that combined human emotion with Nexeri crystalline precision. "Look at how quickly your people adapt," Vatrix marveled. "Not just technologically, but socially, culturally." "Evolution isn't just about technology or biology," James explained, finally taking a seat. "It's about ideas, about ways of thinking. Your empire has been stable for so long. You forgot that stability isn't the same as strength." Sarah nodded. "Humanity's history is chaos. We've faced extinction-level events, wars, plagues, disasters. Each time, we not only survived but emerged stronger, not because we were the strongest or the smartest, but because we never stopped changing, learning, adapting." "And now?" Zil asked, his crystalline form reflecting the afternoon sun. "Now," Sarah smiled, "we're offering the Empire a chance to evolve with us. Not through conquest or submission, but through genuine partnership. Your certainty and stability combined with our adaptability and innovation." Vatrix processed this, her feeding tentacles moving in complex patterns. "The Empire has never—" "Exactly," James interrupted gently. "The Empire has never. Those words have been your limitation. We're offering you the chance to say instead, the Empire has never before." Around them, the cafe continued its normal service. A waiter brought fresh tea, treating the crystalline aliens with the same casual professionalism as any other customer. In the distance, children flew kites against the backdrop of a Nexeri cruiser hovering over the harbor, its crystalline surface reflecting the sunset. "Your weapons," Vatrix said finally, "they were never the real threat to us, were they?" "No," Sarah confirmed. "The real threat to your empire was the possibility of change. We just helped you see that change doesn't have to be a threat. It can be an opportunity." As the sun set over the Pacific, human and Nexerite together watched the sky turn colors that neither species had words for alone, but that perhaps together they could learn to describe. Victory's lesson. 1 month after first contact, The Nexeri High Council convened an emergency session to discuss what many were calling the human paradigm. For the first time in the Empire's history, their holographic chamber included representatives from another species, not as conquered subjects, but as equals. Dr. Sarah Chen stood beside Admiral Vatrix, both watching as James Morrison knelt in the center of the chamber, carefully planting a small earth tree in a crystalline pot. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone present. Your colleague's behavior is unexpected, the High Chancellor observed, their crystalline form towering over the assembly. Dr. Morrison believes in teaching by example, Sarah explained. That tree is an oak. It will take decades to reach maturity. Like all relationships worth building, it requires patience, care, and the understanding that the final form may not be what you initially expected. The Chancellor's feeding tentacles writhed in contemplation. You've changed us already. In 1 month, you've done what no species has managed in millennia. No, James said, patting down the soil around the sapling. You changed yourselves. We just showed you it was possible. The evidence was undeniable. Throughout the Empire, changes were already rippling through Nexeri society. Their rigid hierarchies were becoming more flexible. Their crystal-based technology was being enhanced with human-inspired innovations. Most significantly, their fundamental approach to other civilizations was transforming. The reports from our frontier fleets are disturbing, one council member noted. They're requesting diplomatic training instead of conquest protocols. Sarah smiled. Is that truly disturbing, or is it evolution in action? Vatrix stepped forward, her form now bearing subtle modifications inspired by human design principles, less rigid, more adaptive. Honored Council, what the humans have taught us goes beyond technology or military strategy. They've shown us that true strength lies not in overwhelming force or technological superiority, but in the ability to adapt, to grow, to change. On the holographic displays surrounding them, images from across Earth showed the ongoing integration between the two species. Nexeri scientists working alongside human researchers, their crystalline forms complementing human intuition. Artists from both species collaborating on works that combine Nexeri precision with human creativity. Children from Earth playing in parks beneath ships they no longer feared. Your species, the Chancellor addressed Sarah directly, had every opportunity to destroy us. Your technology could have shattered our crystal matrices. Your infiltration of our systems was complete. Yet you chose a different path. Because destruction is easy, James replied, still tending to the oak sapling. Growth is harder, and worth infinitely more. Sarah nodded. We studied your empire for decades. We saw your strength, your achievements, your potential. We also saw your stagnation. You had become like a crystal, perfect, unchanging, and unable to grow. And now, the Chancellor's question hung in the air. In response, Sarah activated a holographic display of her own. It showed the quantum communications network stretching between Earth and Nexeri space, but with an unexpected modification. The human innovations had made it more efficient, more adaptable, and most importantly, more resilient. Now, she said, we learn from each other. Your crystal technology combined with human adaptability. Your stability married to our creativity. Not through conquest or submission, but through genuine partnership. James stood up from the sapling, dusting off his hands. This tree will grow in ways we can't predict. Its branches will reach in directions we can't foresee. That's not a flaw in the design. It's the design itself. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The Empire had come to Earth expecting to find another civilization to conquer. Instead, they had found something far more valuable. A species that could teach them how to evolve again. There are other civilizations out there, Vatrix noted. Some we've already conquered, others we've marked for integration. What do we do about them? Sarah's response was immediate. We learn from our mistakes. We offer them what we offered you, not submission or destruction, but partnership, the chance to grow together. The Chancellor's crystalline form shifted, refracting light in new patterns. "And if they refuse? Then we show them the same patience we showed you," James answered, gesturing to the sapling. "Growth can't be forced. It can only be nurtured." As if to emphasize his point, a small leaf unfurled on the oak sapling, reaching toward the crystalline lights above. It was tiny, almost insignificant in the grand chamber, but it represented something the Empire had forgotten: the beauty of uncertain potential. The price of underestimation, Sarah concluded, wasn't defeat in battle or loss of territory. It was the opportunity cost of all the growth, all the evolution, all the potential partnerships the Empire missed because it was too certain of its own superiority. Vatrix turned to face her council. "We came to Earth thinking we would teach them submission. Instead, they taught us something far more valuable: how to learn again." The council chamber, once a symbol of unchanging power, now held a growing oak tree at its center. Above it, human and Nexari stood together, neither conquering nor conquered, but partners in an experiment that would reshape the galaxy. The price of underestimation had indeed been high, but the rewards of understanding were proving to be infinitely greater. Outside, Earth continued its orbit around the sun, now accompanied by crystalline ships that no longer threatened but protected. Humanity had faced its first major interstellar challenge not with weapons alone, but with the very traits that had always defined them: adaptability, creativity, and the unwavering belief that every ending could be a new beginning. The galaxy would never be the same. And that, after all, was exactly what humanity had intended.